I worked 3 jobs to pay for my brother's education, but when I overheard him call me a woe loser, everything changed. At family dinner, I revealed the truth, and he finally learned what losing really feels like. I used to believe that family always came first. When Dad lost his job and Mom's health started declining, I was barely 21. My brother, Caleb, was still in college, bright, confident, and as everyone said, the family's future. So I picked up the slack. I worked at a diner in the mornings, cleaned offices at night, and ran deliveries on weekends. 3 jobs, 7 days a week. Sleep became a privilege I couldn't afford. Every paycheck was already spoken for before it even touched my hands. Rent, groceries, Mom's medication, Caleb's tuition, Caleb's books, Caleb's rent, Caleb's endless emergencies. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself it was love. Every time I sent Caleb money, I pictured him graduating, landing a great job, and helping the family out of the hole we were in. Maybe then, Dad would finally look at me with pride instead of silent disappointment. Maybe Mom would stop worrying. But as months turned into years, that hope started to rot into resentment. Caleb called me only when he needed something. "Hey sis," he'd say in that smooth, careless tone. "Could you send me $200? My rent's due, and my card's acting up." Or, "I need $500 for a class project. It's really important." I never said no. Not once. But every sure came with a tear I swallowed. One night, while balancing receipts on my tiny kitchen table, I noticed something strange. Caleb's project money had been sent 3 times that semester. Same reason, same amount. I asked him about it. He replied with a laugh. "Sis, relax. You're overthinking things. I got it under control." I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe I wasn't being taken advantage of. But that tiny seed of doubt started growing roots. Then one Sunday afternoon, I decided to visit home. I hadn't been there in months. Work kept me too busy. When I walked through the door, Mom's face lit up. "Renee, you look so tired, baby. You've been working too hard." "I'm okay, Mom," I smiled, hugging her tightly. "How's everyone?" Dad barely looked up from his newspaper. Caleb was lounging on the couch, scrolling through his phone like a prince waiting for his servants. He didn't even pause to say hello. I tried to brush it off. I helped Mom with dinner, listened to her talk about her church friends, and avoided the tension in Dad's silence. But while setting the table, I heard something that made my hands freeze. Caleb's voice. He was in the next room, talking on the phone, unaware I was standing close enough to hear. "Yeah, my sister's obsessed with playing savior," he chuckled. "Working 3 jobs like some old loser just to pay my bills. She acts like I owe her my life or something. Can you imagine?" The world went still. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. I wanted to believe I misheard him, that maybe woe loser meant something else. But his tone left no room for confusion. My knees felt weak. All those sleepless nights, all those missed meals, all the times I turned down outings because I couldn't afford them, all reduced to a joke. I went home that night and sat in my apartment for hours, staring at my hands. They were calloused, dry, and rough, the hands of someone who had given everything. And for what? For a brother who saw me as a fool. For parents who praised him while I was invisible. That night, something inside me broke quietly. It wasn't anger, not yet. It was grief. The kind that comes when you realize your love was never valued. I decided that the next time Caleb called, I'd say no. I didn't know how I'd say it, but I knew it had to happen. And when it did, I'd do it without apology. The next morning, I woke up before dawn as usual. My alarm buzzed at 4:30 a.m., and I dragged myself up for another double shift. But this time, something in me felt lighter, not from joy but from clarity. I wasn't doing this anymore. That single thought looped in my mind while I brewed my coffee, slipped on my worn sneakers, and checked my bank balance. The number was depressingly low. My paycheck from all 3 jobs barely covered bills and Mom's medications, but I'd been saving a little each month for something of my own, maybe a course, a new apartment, or even a small getaway. I had $1,280 saved. That was the first amount I wasn't going to send away. At exactly 9:07 a.m., my phone buzzed. "Caleb." I already knew what was coming. "Hey sis. I need $600 for my rent. Landlord's being a pain. You said last time your scholarship covered housing." "Yeah, but there's a delay. You know how schools are. I'll pay you back next week." I took a slow breath. My heart was pounding, but my hands didn't shake. "Caleb, I can't send you money anymore." For a moment, silence. Then came the scoff I'd heard too many times. What are you talking about? You always help me out. What changed? I thought of his voice from last night. Whoa, loser. I heard what you said about me. At Mom's house. On the phone. Another pause. Then his tone changed sharp, defensive. You were eavesdropping? Wow. You really have nothing better to do, huh? I was in the next room, Caleb. You weren't whispering. You called me a loser. After everything I've done for you. He sighed loudly, like I was the one being dramatic. You're taking it out of context. It was a joke. Don't be so sensitive. Look, can you just send the money or not? Not. The line went quiet. You're serious? Dead serious. You're unbelievable. I thought you actually cared about this family. I laughed bitterly. Cared? I've given up everything for this family. He muttered something under his breath, something like, you always make yourself the victim. Then the line went dead. I stood there for a moment, staring at my phone. My hands trembled now. Not because I regretted it, but because I finally said what I'd been too afraid to say for years. That evening, Mom called. Her voice was soft, almost pleading. Renee, honey, Caleb said you refused to help him with rent. What's going on? I closed my eyes. Mom, I've been paying for everything. His tuition, his rent, his. I know, sweetheart, she interrupted gently. But he's struggling. He's just trying to find his feet. Mom, he's been finding his feet for 5 years. My voice cracked. And I've been breaking my back so he can live comfortably. She sighed, like I was saying something unreasonable. You've always been the strong one, Renee. You know how your brother is. He just needs more time. There it was again, that invisible expectation. I was the dependable one. The fixer. The sacrificial lamb. I hung up before tears could betray my voice. That week, Caleb didn't call. Neither did Mom or Dad. I went to work, came home, and tried to enjoy the silence. For the first time in years, I bought myself a small gift, a secondhand guitar. Something I'd always wanted but never let myself have. I spent my evenings teaching myself chords from YouTube tutorials. It was awkward, slow, but strangely healing. Every string I plucked felt like reclaiming a part of myself I'd lost somewhere between bills and guilt. But peace never lasts long in my family. One Friday evening, I came home from work and found 3 missed calls from Mom, 2 from Caleb, and 1 from Dad. My stomach twisted. When I finally called back, Mom's voice was trembling. Renee, we're having family dinner on Sunday. Please come. We need to talk. I knew what that meant. Caleb had gotten to them first. Sunday came faster than I wanted. I almost didn't go, but some small, tired part of me needed closure. When I arrived, everyone was already seated. Mom's eyes were swollen, Dad looked stern, and Caleb looked smug. Glad you could make it, Dad said without warmth. I sat down quietly, folding my hands in my lap. Dad cleared his throat. Your brother tells us you've stopped helping with his education. Is that true? Yes, I said simply. Why? I looked at Caleb. Because I overheard what he really thinks of me. Caleb smirked. You mean when you eavesdropped? Dad, she's exaggerating. Enough, I said sharply. I worked 3 jobs for years to pay for this family. And instead of being grateful, he calls me a loser behind my back. Mom gasped. Dad's eyes narrowed. Caleb turned red. That's not true, he shouted. You're twisting my words. Then tell them what you said. I snapped. Word for word. He froze. His eyes darted to our parents, then down to his plate. That silence was all the proof they needed. But Dad leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. Even if he said something foolish, you don't just abandon family. He's your brother. Abandon. I laughed, bitter and broken. I've been holding this family together while you all looked the other way. You think I owe him my life because I was born first. Dad's jaw tightened. Your brother earned every dime on his own, unlike you. Those words pierced deeper than Caleb's insult ever could. Mom tried to interject, but I raised a hand. My voice shook, but it was steady enough to hold its truth. I'm done. I won't be the family's wallet anymore. I won't be your afterthought or your punching bag. You can keep your golden boy, but you'll do it without my help. And for the first time in my life, I stood up for myself and walked out. No one followed. Outside, the cool night air hit my face like freedom. My hands trembled, my chest hurt, but my soul felt clean. For years, I'd lived to be needed. Now, I was learning to live for myself. The silence after that dinner lasted longer than I expected. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. No calls. No texts. No, how are you, Renee? From Mom. No apologies from Caleb. It was like I had been erased from my own family. At first, the quiet felt like punishment, a sharp emptiness that followed me everywhere. I'd catch myself reaching for my phone after work, expecting to see a message from Mom or at least some meaningless meme from Caleb. But there was nothing. For the first time, I realized how much of my identity had been tied to being needed. If no one needed me, who was I? That question haunted me for weeks. I poured all my energy into work, trying to forget. The diner wasn't glamorous, but it gave me purpose. I started picking up extra shifts, not out of obligation, but because I wanted to save for me this time. It felt strange at first, spending money on myself without guilt. I bought new shoes, a decent winter coat, a proper mattress, things I denied myself for years while paying for Caleb's comfort. Then one morning, something unexpected happened. My manager, Sharon, called me into her office. "Renee," she said, smiling, "you've been one of our most reliable workers. I've noticed your dedication, and I'd like to promote you to floor supervisor." I was stunned. "Me?" "Yes, you," she laughed. "You've earned it." That promotion came with a small raise, but more importantly, it came with pride. For once, I was recognized for something I did. That weekend, I took myself out to a small cafe downtown. I sat by the window, sipping coffee and journaling, something I hadn't done since high school. My world felt quiet, but peaceful. Until my phone buzzed. It was Caleb. After 6 months of silence. "Hey sis, can we talk?" My first instinct was to ignore him. But curiosity, or maybe closure, got the better of me. "What's up?" He took a while to reply. "I messed up, okay? Things have been rough. I dropped a semester because I couldn't pay tuition. I didn't realize how much you were doing for me until it stopped. You called me a loser, Caleb. And you let everyone believe I was selfish for walking away. I know. I was stupid. I was angry. I didn't mean it like that. I was just embarrassed. Embarrassed. That word burned. Embarrassed by what? That your sister worked hard while you coasted?" He didn't answer. Then came another message. "Mom's been sick. She didn't tell you because she thought you hated us now." My heart dropped. "What? What's wrong with her?" He said it was her blood pressure. Stress-related, according to the doctors. I sat in my car for hours after that call, torn between anger and guilt. As much as they hurt me, they were still my family. And Mom, she didn't deserve to be caught in the middle. The next day, I went home. When I walked through the door, Mom was sitting on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, looking smaller than I remembered. Her eyes widened when she saw me. "Renee," she whispered. I knelt beside her, taking her hands in mine. "Hey, Mom." Her eyes filled with tears. "I thought you'd never come back." "I didn't want to," I admitted softly. "But Caleb told me you weren't well." She smiled weakly. "You're still my girl, no matter what." For a moment, it almost felt like nothing had changed. But then Dad walked in. His face was cold, unreadable. "You came back," he said flatly. "I came to see Mom," I replied. He crossed his arms. "Your mother's been under a lot of stress. You walking out the way you did didn't help." I bit back the urge to argue. Maybe if everyone carried their share, she wouldn't be this stressed. His expression hardened. "Watch your tone." Mom's hand squeezed mine. "Please, both of you, stop." But the damage was already done. The old tension hung in the air like smoke. I stayed the night, sleeping in my childhood room. Everything was still the same. The faded posters, the tiny bookshelf, the faint smell of old lavender candles. But I wasn't the same girl who used to live here. The next morning, I overheard Caleb and Dad talking in the kitchen. "Dad, I can't go back to school this semester." "I don't have the money," Caleb said. Dad sighed. "Your sister should help. She's working now, isn't she?" "She won't," Caleb muttered. "She said she's done. Well, she owes this family after the stunt she pulled." That was it. The final crack in whatever relationship I had left with them. I walked into the kitchen, my voice steady. "I don't owe anyone anything." They both turned, startled. "Dad, you think love is measured by money," I said. "You think Caleb's failures are my responsibility. But I'm done carrying everyone's weight." Caleb looked away. Dad's jaw tightened. "Don't you dare talk to me like that," he said quietly. I met his gaze without flinching. "Then don't treat me like I'm your bank account instead of your daughter." I turned to leave, but Mom's voice stopped me. "Renee," she whispered, tears in her eyes, "don't go like this." I smiled sadly. "I love you, Mom. But sometimes the only way to save yourself is to walk away." And I did for the last time. That day, I went home and wrote a letter. Not to them, but to myself. It said, You don't need their approval. You don't need their gratitude. You only need peace. I pinned it to my fridge as a reminder. Over the next few months, life began to shift in unexpected ways. I applied for a better job, one that didn't involve endless shifts and aching feet. I got accepted into a training program that could lead to a managerial position. For once, everything I built was mine. Then one afternoon, I got a message from Caleb again. I got a job. Not great, but it's something. I wanted to say thanks for everything you did. I didn't deserve it. It wasn't an apology, not fully, but it was a start. And that night, for the first time in years, I slept without a single ounce of guilt. 6 months passed since I walked out of that house for good. 6 months of silence. 6 months of freedom. I used to think distance would make me bitter, that I'd lie awake every night replaying arguments in my head, wishing things had gone differently. But instead, I found peace in the quiet. Life had finally started to bloom again. The training program I joined turned into a full-time position at a logistics firm. The pay was good, the hours reasonable, and for the first time, I had weekends to myself. I even joined a local art class, something I'd always wanted to do when I was younger. Painting gave me a kind of peace I didn't know I needed. It was strange how color and canvas could heal wounds words never could. One Saturday afternoon, while I was painting in the small garden behind my apartment, my phone buzzed. It was Mom. Her name on the screen froze me. For a second, I almost didn't answer, but then I did. Renee? Her voice was tired, older somehow. I didn't think you'd pick up. I almost didn't, I admitted softly. How are you, Mom? I've been better, she said with a small laugh. Your dad's blood pressure's up. Caleb's. Well, he's figuring things out. I wanted to hear your voice. That's all. We talked for a few minutes about nothing important. Her garden, the weather, her church group. But beneath every word was the same thing we didn't say. I miss you. Before hanging up, she said, Renee, your brother's hosting dinner next Sunday. He asked if you'd come. Please, just think about it. I told her I would. But in truth, I wasn't sure I wanted to step back into that world again. All week, I wrestled with the idea. Part of me wanted to stay away, to protect my peace. But another part needed to see if anything had really changed. So the following Sunday, I went. When I walked in, the first thing I noticed was how much smaller the house felt. The once lively chatter was gone. The walls carried a quiet kind of guilt. Caleb opened the door himself, and for the first time in years, he looked humble. Hey, he said quietly. Hey. He stepped aside to let me in. Mom hugged me tight, eyes watery, while Dad sat at the dining table in silence. The meal was simple, roasted chicken, mashed potatoes, and green beans. Nothing fancy, but the atmosphere was heavy. Halfway through dinner, Caleb cleared his throat. I wanted to say something. Everyone looked up. He glanced at me. Renee, I was awful to you. I took advantage of you, lied to you, and said things I'll never be able to take back. You didn't deserve any of it. The words hung in the air, raw and fragile. I didn't just hurt you, he continued. I hurt Mom and Dad too, because I made them believe you were selfish. You weren't. You were the only one actually holding this family together. Mom started crying softly. Even Dad's stern expression cracked a little. Caleb turned toward him. Dad, I know you always wanted me to be successful, but you made me think I didn't have to work for it because Renee would always save me. That's on both of us. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Dad sighed, long, tired, and heavy. You're right. He looked at me, and for the first time in my life, his eyes softened. I was wrong about you, Renee. You've done more for this family than I ever acknowledged. I'm sorry. Those words, ones I'd waited my whole life to hear, didn't make me cry. They didn't even make me angry. They just made me calm, like I could finally stop proving myself. I smiled faintly. Thank you, Dad. We finished dinner quietly after that. No shouting, no guilt, no manipulation, just quiet honesty. When I got up to leave, Mom walked me to the door. I'm proud of you, she said, hugging me tightly. You did the right thing. Sometimes love means stepping away. I know, I said, smiling. I just needed time to learn that. Outside, the night was cool and peaceful. I stood by my car for a moment, looking up at the stars. The same ones I used to stare at when I felt trapped. But now they didn't look distant. They looked reachable. That night, I wrote one last journal entry. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing yourself without guilt. And I meant it. Caleb and I started talking again. Not often, but enough to rebuild something small and real. He eventually finished school, got a steady job, and paid me back part of what he owed. I didn't ask for it, but he insisted. Mom's health improved once the fighting stopped. Even Dad softened, calling once in a while to check on me, awkward but genuine. One evening, about a year later, I was sitting on my porch, watching the sunset, when a notification popped up on my phone. Caleb Marshall just sent you $7,000. Attached was a message. For every dollar you gave when I didn't deserve it, you taught me what family really means. I stared at the screen, tears welling up. It wasn't about the money. It was about acknowledgement, about finally being seen. I didn't reply right away. I just sat there, smiling through tears, whispering to myself, justice doesn't always come loud. Sometimes it comes softly in peace. And that night, for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like a loser. I felt like someone who finally won, quietly, gracefully, and completely on her own terms. Thank you for listening, and if this story hit you, subscribe to this channel for there are more to tell. See you in my next story.